My name is Sophia, and I'm 31 years old. I work part-time at a neighborhood supermarket. Today is the beginning of November, and things are starting to get busy as we approach the end of the year. Manager, can I talk to you about taking some time off during Christmas? I asked. That's unusual for you, Sophia. Why do you need time off? The manager replied, we're planning to spend Christmas at my husband's parents' house this year, so I need the 24th and 25th off. I explained. Oh, that's the reason. Of course, that's fine. You always work hard, Sophia. The manager said. Thank you so much. That helps a lot. I replied. Isn't your husband's family far away? You're from around here, right? The manager asked. Yes, I'm from a neighboring town, but my husband is from Boston. I said. Boston? That's quite a distance, the manager noted. Yes, it is. We haven't been able to introduce Alexander to his grandparents yet. I said. Even more reason for you to go. Don't worry about the store. Visit your family, the manager reassured me. Thank you, I appreciate it, I said. Alexander, my son, is 2 years old and goes to a childcare center. When I gave birth 2 years ago, a societal issue made it difficult to introduce him, and we hadn't found the right time until now. My husband, Lucas, is a medical technician at a hospital, and it's been hard for him to take time off, so we're eager to make it happen this Christmas. Later at home, Lucas asked, do you think you can get time off for Christmas? Yes. I got the okay from my manager, I replied. After Alexander went to sleep, Lucas and I shared a late dinner. I'll call my dad. He tried to reach me while I was on my way home. Lucas said, whenever there's news, it's always your dad who calls. Your mom is the quiet type, I noted. That's true. Lucas agreed. My dad has a cheerful personality and loves to talk. My mom is quiet and speaks sparingly. We haven't had many chances to talk since getting married, so I'm hoping this visit will help us get closer. Lucas called his dad. Hello, Dad. What's up? Got it. I'll talk to Sophia about it later, Lucas said before hanging up. Dad is really excited to meet Alexander. He can't stop talking about it. He said to let him know if we need anything. I'm glad they're excited. My parents also said we should go this year to introduce Alexander. I said, you love my parents too, don't you? Lucas asked. Yes, we both do. We're in the same boat, I agreed. We were looking forward to our visit. On Christmas morning, after a 4-hour drive, we arrived at Lucas's parents' house just before noon. I saw my sister-in-law's car parked outside, so I knew they had already arrived. Merry Christmas, we called out as we stepped into the house. Lucas's father greeted us with a big smile. Good job on the drive. Take it easy. Today, my father-in-law was holding Ava, my sister-in-law's daughter. Oh, Ava, you've grown so much, I exclaimed. I'm 6 years old now. I'm in elementary school. Ava replied proudly. Wow, that's amazing. Look, there's Alexander, I said, pointing to my son. Ava climbed down from her grandpa's arms and smiled brightly at Alexander, who smiled back. How cute, I thought. Come on in, my father-in-law said, inviting us inside. In the living room, we saw my sister-in-law Isabella and her husband. Isabella's husband smiled at us, but Isabella looked at us with a serious face. Merry Christmas, he greeted them. Merry Christmas, Isabella's husband replied, but Isabella stayed silent. I felt a bit awkward, but then Lucas came into the living room. Henry, Isabella, Merry Christmas. We haven't seen each other in a while. How have you been? Lucas greeted them. Isabella, who had been staring at us, finally smiled. Did they just ignore me? I wondered, but Lucas and Isabella's husband didn't seem to notice. Maybe I was overthinking it. I tried to brush it off and sat down. Lucas, can you watch Alexander for a bit? I'm going to help mother-in-law in the kitchen, I said. Sure, no problem, Lucas replied. I went to the kitchen to help my mother-in-law. Merry Christmas, mother-in-law. Let me help you, I said. She glared at me, bumped my shoulder, and said, You're in the way. Then she walked back to the living room. I heard her say, Oh, Lucas, Merry Christmas. How have you been? What's going on? I thought. First, Isabella ignored me, and now my mother-in-law was being rude. Did I do something wrong? I couldn't think of anything. We hadn't spoken much over the past 2 years since Alexander was born. Decided not to let it bother me for now and planned to discuss it with Lucas later. I returned to the living room and took Alexander from Lucas. My father-in-law handed Alexander an envelope. Here you go, Alexander. Some gifts for you, he said. Alexander looked happy with the envelope. Sophia, did you hear that? Alexander just said thank you to me. What a smart kid, my father-in-law beamed. But I noticed my mother-in-law and Isabella grinning. It didn't seem like a friendly smile. It felt sarcastic. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination. Time passed, and in the evening, we headed home. The next day, we visited my parents. Alexander was all smiles when he saw his grandparents. Merry Christmas. Grandpa and Grandma have presents for you, they said. My dad handed Alexander an envelope too. Sophia, did you hear that? Alexander just said thank you to me. My dad said, You're kidding. That's exactly what father-in-law said. I thought. Everyone laughed. When I took the envelope, I felt it was unusually heavy. Why does it feel so heavy? I wondered. I hadn't noticed anything inside when I received it from my father-in-law the day before. Later, after giving Alexander a bath and putting him to bed, I decided to check the envelope. Oh, it is indeed $100, just like last year. I said to myself, I felt a bit guilty. We'll have to give something back in return, won't we? I said to Lucas. Just like last year, Lucas agreed. My parents didn't hold back because I'm their only child, and Alexander is their first grandchild. I felt a mix of amazement and gratitude. I noted down the amount of money received. My dad seemed to be in sync with my father-in-law. It was going to be an interesting year. Last year, since we couldn't meet, they had sent us a gift card for $100. They were thrilled to have a grandson. Remembering how happy my father-in-law was holding Alexander and talking the day before, I smiled and continued today. My father-in-law was holding Ava, my sister-in-law's daughter. Ava, you've grown so much, I exclaimed. I'm 6 years old now. I'm in elementary school. Ava replied proudly. Wow, that's amazing. Look, there's Alexander, I said, pointing to my son. Ava climbed down from her grandpa's arms and smiled brightly at Alexander, who smiled back. How cute, I thought. Come on in, my father-in-law said, inviting us inside. In the living room, we saw my sister-in-law Isabella and her husband. Isabella's husband smiled at us, but Isabella looked at us with a serious face. Merry Christmas, I greeted them. Merry Christmas, Isabella's husband replied, but Isabella stayed silent. I felt a bit awkward, but then Lucas came into the living room. Henry, Isabella, Merry Christmas. We haven't seen each other in a while. How have you been? Lucas greeted them. Isabella, who had been staring at us, finally smiled. Did they just ignore me? I wondered, but Lucas and Isabella's husband didn't seem to notice. Maybe I was overthinking it. I tried to brush it off and sat down. Lucas, can you watch Alexander for a bit? I'm going to help mother-in-law in the kitchen, I said. Sure, no problem, Lucas replied. I went to the kitchen to help my mother-in-law. Merry Christmas, mother-in-law. Let me help you, I said. She glared at me, bumped my shoulder, and said, You're in the way. Then she walked back to the living room. I heard her say, Oh, Lucas, Merry Christmas. How have you been? What's going on? I thought. First, Isabella ignored me, and now my mother-in-law was being rude. Did I do something wrong? I couldn't think of anything. We hadn't spoken much over the past 2 years since Alexander was born. I decided not to let it bother me for now and planned to discuss it with Lucas later. I returned to the living room and took Alexander from Lucas. My father-in-law handed Alexander an envelope. Here you go, Alexander. Some gifts for you, he said. Alexander looked happy with the envelope. Sophia, did you hear that? Alexander just said thank you to me. What a smart kid, my father-in-law beamed. But I noticed my mother-in-law and Isabella grinning. It didn't seem like a friendly smile. It felt sarcastic. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination. Later, when we got home, I opened the envelope. Wait, what? I said, shocked. There was a single green leaf inside. I was at a loss for words. Lucas, startled by my reaction, exclaimed, What? A leaf? What on earth is this? He started laughing, thinking it was a prank. Let's call them. They might be concerned too, I suggested. Lucas, still chuckling, tried calling my father-in-law, but got no answer. They might be in the shower. Let me try calling Mom, he said. He called his mother, who answered. After a brief conversation, Lucas said, Mom sounds really apologetic. She wants to talk to you, Sophia. Is that okay? Sure, I replied, taking the phone reluctantly. As soon as I picked up the call, my mother-in-law went silent. Then I heard a faint laugh in the background that sounded like Isabella. Hello, mother-in-law. Like I would ever apologize to you, you poverty-stricken wife. Your children are as poor as a leaf. Siga, paper wife, she sneered and hung up. I was stunned. All the events of yesterday suddenly made sense. What was I going to do? Sophia, what's wrong? Lucas asked, noticing my distress. I don't know how to explain it. I stammered. Just then, Lucas' phone rang. It was his father. Maybe he's calling back. Lucas said, putting the phone on speaker. Dad, did you call by mistake? No, it's Ava. A child's voice replied. Grandpa's in the shower. I wanted to talk. Ava, we're in the middle of something important, Lucas said. Oh, really? Bye, Lucas, and bye, poor auntie, Ava said cheerfully. Wait, Ava, what did you say? Lucas asked. I said bye, poor auntie. Mommy and Grandma called you that earlier. They're chatting over coffee now. Ava explained. Ava, could you explain that to Lucas? I asked, trying to stay calm. Sure. Mommy told me that for poor people, money gifts are just a single leaf, Ava said innocently. Lucas looked at me, baffled. I stayed silent, trying to process everything. My sister-in-law noticed Ava on the phone and shouted, Ava. Just then, my father-in-law's voice came on the phone. We'll talk about it later. Feeling confused, I saw the phone being handed over to my father-in-law. Sorry about that. I was in the shower. Ava said something outrageous, didn't she? He said. So, you heard it too, Dad. I'm sorry, Lucas said. We're on speaker. Sophia's listening too. Sophia, was what Ava said true? Those words were directed at you, right? My father-in-law asked, sounding distressed. Yes, that's right. I confirmed. I'm truly sorry. Please don't blame Ava. She didn't mean any harm. My father-in-law apologized. No, it's all right. Ava's not at fault, I said, trying to sound calm. My father-in-law sighed deeply. I am really sorry. Please don't hold this against Ava. Thank you. I'll follow up on this matter. Isabella's here too, and will confirm things with her, my father-in-law said before ending the call. Lucas looked at me, clearly confused and apologetic. I'm really sorry, Sophia. I have no idea what's going on. I told him about all the discomfort I felt during our visits to his parents' house. We decided to wait for a response from my father-in-law. Surprisingly, the next day, Isabella's husband drove my in-laws and Isabella to our house. They stood before us, with my father-in-law and Isabella's husband apologizing profusely. We've done something truly disrespectful. We are sorry. We apologize for the outrageous behavior of my wife. The deep apology was appreciated, but my mother-in-law and Isabella didn't say a word. After being married for 4 years, I couldn't fathom the reason behind their animosity, especially since we rarely met. May I ask why you suddenly acted this way towards me? I asked, hoping to understand their behavior and possibly address any misunderstanding. There was no response. They were intent on ignoring me. My father-in-law, enraged by their attitude, shouted, "Answer her." Finally, Isabella grudgingly responded, "Well, Mom was originally against the marriage." "Wait, that's it. And why?" I asked, perplexed. "Why did you let him marry a woman like this? A woman who doesn't even wear a single brand name item, who dresses in mass-produced cheap clothes?" She spat out. Indeed, I wasn't interested in branded items, unlike Isabella and my mother-in-law, who both liked and wore them. "Are you saying that's the only reason you insulted me?" I asked, astonished. "That's all it is. I just don't want you in our family. I wish you would divorce soon and disappear." "How could you say something so rude? And you, why are you supporting such a woman? You're an elite employee at a top-tier company. You should choose someone suitable for our family, right?" Despite Lucas being a well-qualified medical professional, we can't accept such a woman as a family member, can we? Upon hearing Isabella's true feelings, her husband was speechless. But it didn't end there. My mother-in-law's next words revealed where this attitude came from. Originally, I had found a suitable partner for Lucas. Despite that, he brought home some unknown woman and declared they were getting married. It was a true shock. "What? You were doing such a thing without telling us?" Lucas asked, incredulous. "There are limits to what's acceptable, Mom. Sophia is my wife," Lucas said, trying to defend me. "It's fine, isn't it? She's just a poor girl. Her parents didn't seem very impressive either, quite impoverished, don't you think? She wasn't wearing a single branded item. In other words, she's from a struggling household that finds it hard to make ends meet." "What? What are you saying?" Lucas shouted, horrified. "And to love a child born of such a woman? Impossible. It would taint our precious Ava. We had plans for her to marry a friend's child." Upon hearing his mother's true feelings, Lucas was speechless. I felt the same, wondering how I could have missed all this. If I consider that my father-in-law called not out of interest but disinterest, everything makes sense as harassment. "Well, it's fine. If you divorced, please do it as soon as possible. Let's go. We don't need to get involved in this farce," my mother-in-law said dismissively. Just as my father-in-law was about to say something, the living room door dramatically opened, and my parents walked in. "It's been a while. Father-in-law, mother-in-law," my dad said calmly. "Did Sophia call you?" "Yep. It must be hard to be talked about like that without saying anything, right?" he continued. When I heard that my father-in-law was coming over, I had contacted my parents. They had heard some of the terrible comments from outside the door. Their timing was perfect. My parents approached my mother-in-law with serious faces. They took out business cards from their pockets and said, "Here you go." Amazingly, they dropped their business cards at her feet, as if to say, "Pick it up." I had to suppress my laughter. Isabella rose to their bait, picking up the card and shouting, "Such arrogance from poor people. You didn't even wear any branded items today, and your clothes look mass-produced. As soon as she looked at the card, she was startled. "Mom," she exclaimed. My mother-in-law also looked at the business card Isabella held. "You two are executives of Valet Clos." "Yes, my husband and I started out together. He's an executive at the headquarters, and I'm the head of planning. Our daughter quit when she got married." "You know that, right?" my mom replied calmly. "Both of my parents currently work at the headquarters of Valet Clos, a famous low-cost apparel brand. After graduating from college, I had spoken to my father-in-law and mother-in-law about myself, but my parents had never explained their situation. So she could go back to work anytime she wanted, right?" Isabella stammered. "What? That's amazing. You work at that famous fashion brand's major corporation," my mother-in-law said, her tone changing completely. "So, what do you mean we're poor? That my grandchild is the grandchild of a poor wife? Because you opposed the marriage, it's okay to harass us?" my mom continued, her voice firm. "It's not. We're really sorry," my mother-in-law said, but her apology was only because my parents held executive jobs. It was beyond the point of being resolved by just an apology. Henry looked disappointed as he said, "I thought it was a good thing to leave Ava with my parents. But I'll drive you home. But after that, we'll live separately." "What? What are you talking about?" Isabella asked, shocked. "I'm glad I got to see your true face. Let's discuss our divorce when we get home," Henry said. Henry then left the house. At that moment, my father-in-law also stood up, bowed deeply to my parents, and said, "I'm really sorry for what happened." He then turned to us. "I'm really sorry. I'll be in touch." Looking sternly at my pale-faced mother-in-law, he said, "Be prepared when you get home." Before exiting our house, my mother-in-law and Isabella hurriedly grabbed their belongings and rushed out. I caught my breath at home after my parents kindly offered to pick up Alexander from the child care center. Later, I received a call from my father-in-law. He told me that my mother-in-law had been forcibly sent back to her parents' house. It's a de facto separation. Apparently, they made this decision because they were unsure what she might do to Alexander. But it's a separation with the premise of divorce, and they are waiting for the right timing. As for Isabella, the divorce was finalized immediately. After she returned home, Henry obtained custody of Ava. Isabella, of course, has taken refuge in my mother-in-law's house, but she is getting a good scolding from my mother-in-law's mother and is currently on a job hunt. We continue to live our busy daily lives. It feels really good to not only see our child grow up, but also to share this joy with his grandparents.